Let's bring in longtime political strategist and consultant Rick Wilson. He is a co-founder and board member of the Lincoln Project. And John Heilman, I'll give you the first question for Rick.
And also, I believe the author of that ad, or the author of the script of that ad, I'm like Donald Trump, a little bird told me. There are two obvious questions, one of which is, this thing, I understand from my little bird, this thing came together real quick.
Yes.
And I think the biggest question watching it is, beautiful ad, we don't get to see any of their faces. I think maybe those two things are connected.
You know, the West Wing was such a cultural icon for a generation of political people and a generation of Americans. And it did remind people all the time, even though it was fiction, it was a fiction of a White House people wanted. They wanted the honor and dignity. They wanted the sense of service. They wanted the idea that people in that sacred space were there for the American people and not for their own financial gain or their personal aggrandizement or whatever lunatic fantasies that have empowered certain recent residents of that office. And we didn't show Trump in the ad. We showed the White House. We showed the city. We showed America in an aspirational way.
Well, I also meant none of the actors' faces.
Yeah.
Just all aspirational.
Yeah.
Rev? I think one of the things that West Wing brought to all Americans is that we actually felt like we were on the West Wing.
Sure.
By the cast coming out and endorsing, or at least some members of the cast, Kamala Harris, doesn't that also in a subliminal way say that these are the people that we learned what the West Wing was about, who feels this should be in the West Wing? Was that part of the message?
The idea was to show people, to remind people that the stories they saw on the West Wing, that the stories they saw about that White House also exist in real life. Republican and Democratic presidents before have put the country first. They've done the things that leadership demands when they're in the White House. And so we're really proud to work with the West Wing cast on this. It was an amazing group of people to work with, and it did happen at a speed that is like speed of light.
Yeah,
so
really.
Rick, this sounds like a little bit of a prosaic question after the kind of lofty rhetoric of the West Wing and the aspirations of the cast there. But when you make an ad like this, whose minds do you think you might be able to change? Are you making it thinking, right, there are certain people we want to target, older voters perhaps who reminisce about that period, or are you just hoping it reaches somebody somewhere?
Well, look, there are an awful lot of Gen X voters who are still in the undecided camp. There are some soft Gen X Republicans that a little bit of research has shown us are still in play. Those folks have moved over to Harris in meaningful numbers, bigger than Trump has ever lost before in either 16 or 20. And so talking to those folks, but it is also a more broad appeal to talk to America and to remind them that they don't have to accept something lesser in the White House this time.